Hi there. Welcome, my fellow human beings. Good to see you. I'm Jerrel. Like you, I'm also a human being, and for a living, I make video games. So, today I wanted to discuss, or I wanted to start a discussion, I want to start doing this more regularly, is discussing power systems of various stories, whether that be novels, movies, video games, anime, manga. This kind of thing is always very interesting to me because a power system is so closely intrinsically tied to the themes and the world building of the story, and a good power system supports the narrative in which it exists, and it supports the characters and the overall plot, and it works together. It doesn't just exist on the side. So today I want to discuss One Piece and the power system of the Devil Fruit, but also Haki, for people, and I don't mean the sport. So if you're not familiar with One Piece, this is a very popular manga and anime, and if you haven't heard of it, basically the world is mostly water. It's all oceans, and pirates sail around looking for adventure and freedom, and there's all kinds of different crazy, unique islands that this main cast goes to. So that is the rundown of One Piece. Now, the Devil Fruit power is a power that allows the user to do really strange things. There's a bunch of different devil fruits, but there's only one of each type. Say, for example, there's a devil fruit that lets you, turn into fire and shoot fire. Devil fruits have to be eaten by a person, and when a person eats the devil fruit, they gain the powers of the devil fruit, and then that fruit is gone. There are no duplicate powers. There can only be one devil fruit in the world, and as a trade-off, the user loses the ability to swim. If they go into the ocean, they won't be able to save themselves. They will sink. They lose all their strength when submerged in seawater. So to me, the most important question to ask here is, can devil fruit users take a bath? Apparently, this is a very often asked question. It's a pretty funny question, and we're just going to scroll through Google here and see what sort of images come up. So apparently it's been answered by the author that users can, as long as the water is not up to their knees, they can still survive being in seawater. But once it's passed up higher than their knees, then they're weakened. Devil fruit users can take a shower as well if the water's just sort of going on them. So that's one concern out of the way. So what I find interesting about devil fruit powers is they are so dynamic. They are extremely interesting. I would describe devil fruit powers as an excellent power system. It was obviously conceived with the world and the characters in mind, and the reason being is that it works with the storytelling of One Piece. One Piece makes you feel like there's always something more. There's always going to be a new adventure. There's always going to be a bigger threat. And because devil fruit powers are so unpredictable and wild, you don't actually know if you'll be safe when you get to the next island for your new adventure. I would compare One Piece, say for example, to Dragon Ball Z, where it wasn't about being creative and using your powers in an interesting way. It was just about increasing your power level. And you would think, oh, my power level is a bajillion, bajillion, bajillion. No one can beat me, so there's no sense of threat. And the only way to face a threat, to have a credible threat to the story via an antagonist, is for that antagonist to say, oh, well, I have 2 bajillion, jillion, bajillion, gillion, jabillions power levels. And at that point, it's silly. It's ridiculous because you have no frame of reference. And One Piece avoids that issue by relying on devil fruits for the power system, but they kind of ruin it a little bit later in the story by introducing a second power system, and I'll go over that in a little bit. So, yeah, what's so interesting about One Piece and the devil fruits is that you cannot simply overwhelm a person with raw force. If someone has an interesting devil fruit power, say for example they can turn into smoke, well then how are you supposed to punch them? How are you supposed to slice them with the sword? If you have someone who can manipulate gravity and they can call down meteors and they can make meteors fall on you, that's kind of ridiculous. And then you have a character who has a devil fruit power that can basically turn a space into his operating room, and he can sort of swap out people's organs. He can chop people up into pieces without, even actually having to cut them very hard or anything. He just sort of his power lets him perform surgery on people, and it's ridiculous because you could just disembowel someone very easily using his powers. He can swap places with objects, kind of like the Naruto jutsu that lets you switch places with a log. But that power is so ridiculous that there's a cost, and it's a stamina cost, and that character can only do that power so much. Whereas other powers, which seem less powerful, they don't seem to have a stamina cost. So there does seem to be some consideration for balancing, while other characters get to freely use their powers, and it doesn't seem like there's a limit to what forces they can exert, in terms of elemental control. One guy can control stone, and he can take an entire mountain and turn that into his body, and he can smash people. So that is such an interesting dynamic, because you can't have one character just say, I'm Goku, I'm super strong, I can defeat anyone because of my power level. The characters have to come up with interesting and creative ways. So it is in the hands of the characters themselves. Characters who are not that smart and are not that creative, they don't have good battle sense, they tend to not use their powers very well. And characters who have good battle sense, who are creative, use their powers in various applications that they've come up with. So it gives more power to the character in terms of, this application exists because this character thought that up. And that gives credibility to that character. It makes them strong, not from a power level standpoint, but from a writing standpoint. And it makes it very interesting to watch, to see characters use their powers in different ways. So I would say that One Piece's Devil Fruit's powers from a writing standpoint are excellent, top-notch. I give that a 10 out of 10 in terms of writing. Some powers are a little bit OP, and they didn't seem to be balanced in any way, but it creates a real threat, because the heroes are never safe in the story. So I will say that that's excellent. Devil Fruit powers are excellent, and I would say on the opposite end of that, we have Haki. H-A-K, I'll spell it like this, H-A-K-I. There you can see, Haki. And what Haki is, there's three kinds, and I'm just going to say it right off the bat. Haki is a bad power system. From a writing standpoint, creatively it's fine, but from a writing standpoint, it's not good. From a storytelling standpoint, it stops the plot from working and from moving forward in many ways. And obviously the writer has introduced it, so they have to work it into the story, and they keep it implemented. And I want to explain why it's so bad. The reason why this is a bad power system is that it's linear, right? And you can only use Haki in one specific way. You cannot use it in creative ways. And then it becomes a linear system that is just the same as a Dragon Ball Z power level. So there are three types of Haki. There are Conqueror's Haki, which lets you sort of, do a Jedi mind thing, and any people or animals that are pretty weak, the fodder characters, they faint. And this Haki is so useless, because it only affects people who aren't a threat to you anyway. You knock them out, with your mind blast. Whereas the real characters that you need to fight, the strong ones, Conqueror's Haki doesn't really affect them. So that already one signature type of Haki, which is one of the rarest types, is already useless. So from a storytelling standpoint, it's useless. It's not even worth having. The next is Observation Haki, and this lets people see things. It's kind of like, for example, the characters are sailing on a ship, and there's a threat coming from somewhere, and the characters don't see it. But with the power of observation, you might see that even though you're not looking in that direction. You kind of sense it. There's a character who sniped all the way across an entire island and hit a person. So it's things like that. So it's for underpowered characters who don't necessarily have brute strength. They can use Observation Haki for utility, which seems like it would be a good thing. But Observation Haki is also given to the extremely powerful characters. So the weaker characters sometimes get it, but there's no point, because the obscenely powerful characters get Observation Haki. And it just lets it's an easy way out of difficult writing situations. Lastly is Armament Haki, which hardens the user's body. As you can see here, parts of the body become black and hard, and it mainly lets them punch really hard. Luffy's thing, the protagonist, his thing was already punching hard, but now he can punch more hard. It's confusing, because it's unfortunately it's not written with consistency. Luffy can punch through like stone buildings with his raw power without using Haki, and then sometimes he does need to use Haki to harden his hands to punch through like a stone building. So it's not consistent in the way that it's written. People can use it to block swords, but then we've already had people block swords by catching them with their bare hands earlier in the series. So you see why it's not consistent, and there's no measurement as to how good this power actually is. And characters have said, "Oh well, my Haki can beat your Haki because I can have a harder Haki," which just comes down again to the Dragon Ball Z power level. And we don't really understand how to train it and make it harder and improve it. It's just, I have a power level that's higher than yours. And this is so destructive because it goes against everything that One Piece has built for years and years and years. I think that it actually results in worse fights and worse storytelling based on what I've seen on the writing. When I consume media, oh, I hate saying that sounds terrible. But when I watch One Piece, when I watch any media, I view it from a storytelling standpoint, from a writer's standpoint, and I can't stop myself from just analyzing written stories and written media. And when I saw Haki introduced, I was curious as to see how they were implemented. And over the years, I've seen it's actually detrimental to overall fights because it becomes a matter of, I'm going to use my Devil Fruit powers, which are very creative, and then some, jerk goes, "Oh, I've got Haki, I'll just do hard hands." Now your Devil Fruit power doesn't mean anything. And then there's nothing they can do to overcome it because Haki's designed to beat Devil Fruit. But it's like, what if you were playing paper and scissors and rock, but paper always lost, and it didn't matter if you picked, scissor or rock, paper's gonna lose. That's what Haki is. It always wins for some reason. And it's very boring. Fights come down to just power level number. So it's not interesting in the way that they implement it. So I would say Devil Fruit powers, I would rank that 10 out of 10. Excellent. Haki, there's still potential for it. I'm going to rate it like a 3 out of 10 in terms of a power system. But, if Haki was the only power system in a story, awful. I wouldn't want to watch that. I think it's pretty awful. But because it's secondary to One Piece, unfortunately it's kind of taking over, which is very annoying. I don't like fights that involve Haki because they're very boring. They're dull, they're linear. There's nothing interesting or creative that goes on. So anyway, that's really my thoughts on that. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Go ahead and comment in the comment section. Let me know. We can all have a big chat. Anyway, thanks for watching. Kiss your dad on the lips for me. See ya. Alright, and I just want to again thank the patrons for helping me pay the bills in the studios while I get these games done. It takes a long time to work on my games. I'm in a bit of a quiet spot at the moment as I'm working on a number of smaller titles that I can launch on mobile with ad revenue. I've been working on more homebrew stuff since that seems to be the thing that people really get excited about. So I've been working on more homebrew stuff behind the scenes, and hopefully I'll be able to share more with that with you. So we're working towards a Sega Saturn at the moment. Thanks everyone, please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you around.